I, M24, ended my first ever relationship with M29. Seeking advice after losing myself. Hello, everyone. I wish to share my experience regarding my very first relationship. It was a same-sex relationship to start with. You are welcome to form your own opinions. Our story began in August 2023. I, a 23-year-old male, and he, a 28-year-old male, initiated a conversation through an app, and on the same day, we decided to meet face-to-face. We lived quite close to one another, approximately 30 kilometers apart. For me, it was love at first sight. He was laid back, fascinating, intelligent, and in some way, attractive. We shared our first kiss under a canopy of stars that night and spent a few hours at my home, no sexual activity, after driving for 2-3 hours in the mountains. On the second day, I inquired if he was interested in a relationship. He, being 28, responded that he wasn't looking for a commitment. However, by the fourth night, we were officially in a relationship. The first month was somewhat idyllic. Yet, something felt off. He wasn't residing where he had claimed. Each time we met, I would drop him off at a different location in the same neighborhood, and he would say he was going to walk home. Fast forward 2 weeks into that first month, he revealed he actually lived 30 kilometers away from my place. This marked the first deception, and I felt the sting of betrayal. He expressed remorse for misleading me, admitting he could not continue lying. Around the 5th week, several individuals with whom he had previously hooked up or chatted began contacting him. Since he worked from home, I would discreetly check his last status on messaging apps. He was indeed engaging with them, most of whom sought threesomes or foursomes. Discovering this ignited a wave of anger within me. This was a new and unsettling emotion for me, anger stemming from love. In the 6th or 7th week, my boyfriend initiated discussions about chemsex. We both recognized that this was detrimental to our relationship, yet I felt somewhat compelled to participate because of him. Early in our relationship, he had warned me that drugs ruin individuals and relationships. Fast forward to the 5th month, he sought my approval to communicate with his first love for professional assistance. That individual, whom I believe was 48 years old, had a relation who had helped him with math assignments in university. By chance, I discovered that their conversations often strayed from the supposed academic focus. This realization devastated me. I found myself crying throughout the day, and my mother even asked what was troubling me so deeply. I confided in her about my relationship with a man and how challenging it was for me. She was taken aback. 6 days later, my father discovered the truth, yet his reaction was far less shocking compared to my mother's. They had often questioned my sexuality, and I repeatedly denied being gay, as I was in denial. At the end of October or early November 2023, he left our city for work for the first time for 4 days. During his absence, he conversed and sent a video to one of his exes. I found out, and he labeled me as irrational, urging me to calm down, insisting it was all in my head. Despite having seen the messages and video exchanged with his ex, who initially urged my boyfriend to cheat on me as he did with his wife and other men, he minimized my feelings. On Christmas, my boyfriend texted his ex asking what present he would like, as he had helped him. This sent me into a state of distress. On New Year's Eve, we spent the night in an Airbnb, naturally involving drugs. At midnight, his ex, the 48-year-old, called him in tears, expressing a desire to see him. Surprisingly, my boyfriend stood firm, stating he now had a partner and needed his ex to understand that. The 48-year-old hung up but later sent a regretful text. The following months continued unpredictably. My boyfriend craved more chemsex, and I was increasingly fatigued by it. Our frequent arguments were taxing, happening once every couple of days or even daily at times. Until one day, he spoke to me in a condescending manner, as if I were insignificant. After a breakup, I found myself on a dating app, but we reconciled the very next day, although I still chatted with someone else. This proved to be an immense mistake, one I regret daily. The next day, I briefly met with the individual I had spoken to for less than 2 days. I swear our meeting was public, lasting under 5 minutes. Once I met up with someone else while reconciling with my boyfriend, regret overwhelmed me. I blocked that individual, feeling let down by my own choices. I wasn't seeking physical intimacy, but rather someone to confide in about my struggles. The next day, I disclosed everything to my boyfriend. We were back at an Airbnb and engaging in drug use again. While he didn't seem startled by the drugs themselves, he immediately downloaded dating apps and initiated conversations with random people, to which I accepted his retribution. On Easter, he sent a Happy Easter message to his first love, the 48-year-old, and deleted their conversations. While I understood it to be somewhat acceptable, that individual continually attempted to reconnect with him, blatantly disregarding my feelings, even inviting my boyfriend and his family to gatherings. This cycle of payback persisted until the day I ended the relationship. Here are more details. He went through drug cravings, compelling me to indulge in drugs as well to align with his mindset. Each time we engaged in chemsex, he would use dating apps without my consent. I vividly recall crying in bed as he conversed with other men, sharing intimate images. At the beginning of July 2024, he left again for work. The first day went smoothly, but my intuition warned me otherwise. On the second day, he informed his team leader that he would work from his hotel since he wasn't feeling well. When I called, I noticed multiple notifications labeled from work, but they were actually from hookup apps. Knowing he had a profile there, I felt compelled to check. After a hurried exchange over the phone, I ventured onto the app. His profile wasn't visible through the Explore feature, yet I contacted someone living nearby. That individual sent me a screenshot showing my boyfriend's profile in his feed. I ended the relationship as he was en route home, resulting in him missing a connecting flight. He had to stay overnight in the capital. I felt regret for breaking up with him and for raising my voice after what he had done to us. During that time, he allegedly chatted with other men and probably used drugs. While we spoke over the phone, I heard laughter that wasn't his own while I tried to convince him to reunite. To this day, I suspect he was unfaithful, as I saw him exchange numbers with another man, chatting for around 8 minutes while I attempted to reconcile. The following morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. to drive 70 kilometers to the airport to pick him up. As we drove home, another 50-kilometer journey, I later discovered he was contacting individuals on a hookup site discreetly. This is when things became increasingly complex. That very same day, we decided to escape our town for a weekend getaway. We rented a cozy Airbnb complete with a jacuzzi. However, under the influence of drugs, he reached out to an open couple from his past individuals he had previously hooked up with. I was in tears, threatening to leave, but he manipulated me into believing I would regret leaving him forever. Reluctantly, I stayed while he invited the couple over, despite my firm objections. They arrived but surprisingly were quite respectful. My boyfriend suggested a foursome, which I firmly declined. The couple supported my decision and they left afterward, but I felt profoundly disappointed in my boyfriend. He even proposed a foursome in the jacuzzi. The next day was my birthday. I sobbed in bed all day. I ended things with him, yet he met up with another person to discuss our relationship. However, after 5 days, we reconciled once more. We found ourselves in another Airbnb, surrounded by drugs again, and I ended up crying in bed once more. While he observed my tears, he texted another man to come over to socialize, potentially for a threesome. When the individual arrived, we were caught off guard, realizing we both attended the same gym and worked in the same place. It was bizarre and unsettling, leaving me feeling threatened. Even now, that individual continues to stalk me at the gym. My boyfriend became jealous that night, as the newcomer expressed a preference for me over him. In August 2024, we frequently visited a nearby lake. This is incredibly difficult to express, I apologize. As I write this, the experiences flood back. I lost all my friends due to my boyfriend. He was jealous of my heterosexual male and female friends, often accusing me of infidelity with my female acquaintances. One day at the lake in August 2024, he acted strangely, not calling me love and appearing distant and cold. I told him, "I don't know what's bothering you, but you're acting odd." He retorted that it was all in my imagination. I opted to seek tranquility that day. However, the following day, I found emails confirming he had registered on numerous dating and hookup sites. He lashed out at me, threatened to harm me, he was under the influence of alcohol, and even threw me to the ground in front of onlookers at the lake. Everyone around me was left in shock and staring. Once again, we reconciled. Afterward, a long period of peace enveloped us. I was genuinely impressed. No drugs, no alcohol, just the two of us. He introduced me to his family, and we spent most days together at his home with his brother and parents. Though we occasionally argued, his parents were unaware of his sexual orientation publicly, but we both knew they had an idea. His brother was aware of our relationship. I drove 60 kilometers daily just to see him, 30 kilometers there and 30 kilometers back, at my own expense. Our relationship lasted nearly 1 year and 6 months, and my car mileage surged from 100,000 to 180,000 kilometers. Though he worked from home, he still used dating apps during office hours. Regrettably, I began to lose interest in the relationship, as this ongoing cycle of vengeance never ceased. His past partners had cheated on him, leading to his infidelity. He even contracted syphilis and hid it from me until the 6th month of our relationship. We had sexual intercourse without protection all along. While it was treated, I should have been informed from the onset. I was shocked and underwent several blood tests, all of which turned out fine. 3 weeks ago, he expressed a desire to do drugs again after a 53-day streak of sobriety. I refused, as I was experiencing liver problems. After 7 consecutive days of pleading, he convinced me to let him use drugs one final time. He repeated this every time, rendering his promises meaningless. He assured me it would only be the two of us, no apps or anything else involved. I must stress, I remained sober that entire night. He wanted to use drugs on a Wednesday night. He told me he would take a shower. After he returned from the bathroom, he immediately started chatting with individuals on hookup apps. I was exceptionally furious. I disposed of his drugs, pouring them down the sink. However, he was cunning, hiding some in his wallet. We argued for almost 3 hours. I pleaded to end our stay at the Airbnb and return home. At that point, he cornered me in the room, holding me there. His pupils were dilated from the drugs, and he declared, "You won't escape from me, not in this life." I felt genuine fear and retreated to the sofa, where he nearly assaulted me. He forcibly attempted to engage with me in a manner I never thought possible. However, I managed to escape. I realized I needed to have sex with him to defuse the situation, but for the first time, I felt genuinely exploited. The encounter was devoid of emotion and entirely uncomfortable. After an hour, I returned home, leaving him at the Airbnb. He once again reassured me no apps would be used, yet he was, in fact, active on the apps. I loathed his deceit, especially when he lied so openly in front of me. However, I possessed evidence. Fast forward to today, I have ended our relationship once a week for nearly 3 weeks. My emotions have almost completely dissipated after the events that transpired. Yesterday, I formally ended the relationship. I occasionally ponder over him and wish to hear his voice, yet I choose to value the peace I currently possess. Since that last incident, our meetings have reduced from daily to only Fridays and Saturdays. My interest in the relationship and intimate interactions has drastically diminished since that betrayal. Now, I find myself wondering, since this was my first ever relationship, did I make the right choice? Please feel free to share your thoughts. I welcome diverse opinions as I seek to learn and grow. I have no friends left, all lost due to my previous boyfriend. I feel utterly lost, as though I have nothing remaining in my life. I feel empty. Update: I have even received a message from him stating, "Good luck finding someone better than me, and you won't be able to leave me so easily." I suspect he exhibited narcissistic traits. He often argued at work, assuming he was the most crucial and highest-paid employee among his colleagues. He never accepted assistance or opinions, believing he was always right and the best at everything. His family was aware of his nature. Even his brother once mentioned that I deserved better, and he is also gay. I hinted to his mother about some of his actions towards me, and she was not at all surprised.